joining on a beautiful day. It's really nice to see everybody. So let's see. If you want to take a look at the, hi, Jeffrey. Thanks for joining. Yay. Okay, so if you want to just take a peek at the agenda, I'll just get started. But if there's something that I'm missing to add, again, I'm just going to kind of take notes because I will send a draft of our agenda for September on Monday for everybody's review before the end of day Wednesday. So you have a couple of days to look at it and provide me with any feedback if there's something I've missed. Does that sound okay? Just for that piece of business that we kind of are most accountable to. Okay. So to start off, I just have the status of in-person meetings. Tina, we just kind of are going to have this be an ongoing agenda item, knowing that you get updates every so often. So if you have nothing to share, that's fine. But is there any new news about that?
We had a board and commissions meeting last week, I believe. And so all meetings at the city will be online until November 7th. So we should know before November 7th if they're going to extend it beyond that or if they'll let us resume on November 8th in person. So that was the last update I received.
Okay, so, that's helpful. Thank you for staying on top of that. So I'm just going to provide that in the notes, and I'll just provide that in the general MAC agenda too. And you can comment on that when we meet as a larger group. Does anybody have any feedback about that? I don't think there's really too much we can do. I know that it does kind of change the work that the Access team is advancing. However, I believe that everyone's still really committed to have guest speakers if you have them lined up, and if not, we can talk about that too, but that they'll just have to continue to meet virtually with us until we get permissions, because we're not calling the shots. Okay. The second item then would be the Poet Laureate updates, and I have not been a part of those conversations, so I'm not sure. Mandy, I think you're serving. Lucy, are you serving? No?
I'm not. I know that Lana did have a quick you guys can give it too, but Lana had a quick update in her email to you, Joan.
Yeah, I have the update because I'm on the committee.
Okay, good.
We met last week. We're meeting again next week. We have something sort of forming. It's on paper, which is sort of exciting. There's lots of logistics, of course, that we need to run through. And part of the concern is we are just not sure where this is going to be housed, and we don't want to assume that it's going to be the new department that is being created. But we're going ahead and going forward with creating it so that it can kind of fit anywhere. Like, we're going to make it something that can plug into whoever wants to do it, and lots of options. So the plan right now is just to keep working. We want to invite, once we have something in paper next week, then we're hoping that we can invite some of the community members to come aboard and help take shape. We don't want to do that before having anything on paper for the most part. And some of the people that we want to invite, wow, there's new ones to the list since last time we met. Of course, Black Table Arts, The Loft, Minneapolis Free Association, Twin Cities Poetry Workshop, Minneapolis Verse Colloquium, that's a fun word, Ring Ring Poetry, League of Minnesota Poets, MISNA, Raving Native Productions, Asian American Literacy Collective, Green Card Voices, Underground Media Collective, Free Black Dirt, and Minnesota Prison Writing Program are some of the ones that we have. And it's just one of those where we want to just offer it to them, send it to your big inbox, and see if we get any bites. There was a little bit, I'm not sure if you know, Joan, but there was an announcement on Instagram about, or Jeff, about Black Table Arts and how Kino is kind of taking a step back because there's some things happening. So we don't know if we should invite him specifically or if we should just send it out to just their general inbox and have them choose a representative to come on board.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, I did see it on Instagram, but don't know any more than what I saw on Instagram. So yeah, I think sending to the organization and then they can make a decision.
Yeah, it sounds like they're being super forefront, like they're
Yeah,
being proactive
yeah,
about things. So I
yeah,
think they're going to be careful with whatever figurehead they put up,
yep,
because it's going to be representing there
yep.
in Minneapolis. So, so more to come. So next week we're meeting again to hopefully hash more out. But for sure, we would love it to be a youth poet laureate program and a regular and a grown-up poet laureate program.
So the ask to all of those wonderful organizations that you just listed is to participate in the development of the program, like the
Sort
brain
of
trust that's going to
sign
make,
off. Yeah. What? Sorry.
like the brain trust that's going to make, that's going to develop what the program is.
That's kind of what the vision is. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, with us having it in a form, right? Like the policy created, the poet laureate is this is what it is. It'll start in January. Open applications will open, announce it in April, which is National Poetry Month. Like, we'll get like that down, but then maybe it's the recruitment and the qualifications and maybe like, or to choose like all of that stuff. We would love to have input on how to do all of that.
Yeah, I definitely would suggest that, like, really considering what decisions can be made by those community members is going to be key. Like, I think a framework of what's possible and kind of a timeline and some basic, am I freezing out?
Mm-mm.
No, okay. Some basic information is helpful to guide what the opportunities are, but then kind of thinking about, because you kind of, and I guess in my opinion, in my work, it's just like, you want to make sure that that there's still meaningful decisions to be made by the community about what the program will look like, and that it isn't kind of like buttoned up and now we just want you to share it with people kind of a thing.
Right. Exactly. Sort of like how we're getting our stuff to just stamp on it and not get any voice. The same thing. This
Right?
coming to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And
Okay.
there's also talk like if there's not an organization, or if there's not somewhere in the city where this can be housed, that maybe we choose one of those. We come up with somebody who can maybe like run it for the city too. I don't know if that's a possibility, but like somebody who would kind of have like they would be in, it would be the city poet laureate, but maybe this specific organization. This is something that Lana had an idea of, just in case we can't find somebody with the bandwidth within the new department to kind of run this. Maybe picking a different organization to kind of be the, I don't know what you want to call it, like the
accountable organizing body, the operationalizing
state. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Does anybody have any questions about these updates about the poet laureate, Jeffrey?
Yeah. Is there a next touch base with the council members?
Yeah. I think it's the first week in October is when we're meeting with them again. So hopefully we'll have enough by then to like present something.
Great. Thanks.
Awesome. Any other questions?
This is Mary, but I just put something in the chat. It was announced today that Gwen Westerman is the poet laureate for the state.
Wow.
So there's another program you could look at.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, helpful. And yay, Gwen. That's really exciting. Very cool.
Super cool.
Awesome. Thanks. Any other questions or comments about the poet laureate work? It's advancing. Mandy, thank you, and everyone that's working on that committee for that. I know that this is an extra few meetings and a lot of thinking and research and stuff like that. So just want to acknowledge that work. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, mostly it's been Jack and Lana like being amazing.
Great. That's great. Good to hear. Okay. So moving on to vacancies and interview updates, we had an applicant that we would like to interview. We were having difficulty with having an accessible interpreter for this individual who has hearing loss and needs an interpreter. So, and just the platform, there's just kind of been some complications. So we we're hoping that we can interview that person potentially in person when we are able to do that, and just hold off on that because that might work out better. But more to come about that. Tina has been trying really hard to just figure out how to do that. And if that person is unable to use MS Teams, ultimately that's going to be really problematic, which is unfortunate. But we'll see. We'll keep doing our due diligence about that. But that's an update about that. And then there remains very many vacancies, more to come, two potentially with some seats expiring, terms expiring. So I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to speak to their, you did, Lucy, you did?
I did, yeah. I can. Do you want me to give you a little report
Sure.
now? I spoke with Crystal,
Uh-huh.
and she is definitely interested in staying on the commission. But she had a question because she's in an arts administrator position on the commission, but she's not with Culture Club Collaborative anymore. So she's not an arts administrator anymore. So she just wondered, she said, well, I consider myself a working artist, but she didn't know if there was an opening in that slot in that category. So so she wanted us to talk about that, and I didn't know. So I don't know how that gets moved around, or if there is a practicing artist, working artist opening that she could go into, but she is definitely interested in continuing on the commission.
That's good news. Mary, do you have any comments about that from past precedents, like when people move?
Yeah, you can just move her into a different slot,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have an artist opening because you have 10 openings, right?
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. So yeah, the answer is yes. Lucy, do you mind as an action step just returning the communication that we discussed it, and that we'll look to see which artist seat to move her to?
Definitely will do that. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then whenever's the right time, I just had a great conversation with her, and we had a couple of other things that came up that I think would be good for either exec or the full commission to talk about. So I don't know if you want me to just give you a heads up of what that is now, or wait.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm okay with it if everybody else is.
Yeah, it was really very, very interesting. And she just really loves the access engagement work that you guys are doing. She loves being on the committee. She said she had volunteered to be chair, and I don't know if how that happens or what happens there, but we got talking a little bit about the role of the executive committee and how it's created and who it is. I mean, my experience is executive committees are usually the chairs of in this case, ALTs or subcommittees. Because she was saying, if the two others who are on access and engagement, Jeff, you, and who is
Mandy.
Mandy. Oh, you both are. Okay, sorry. I don't know all this yet, what everyone's doing. That, you guys are on executive committee. So then she, if she were the new chair, would she then be on? And then you'd have three of the committee members on executive. So anyway, I said, well, I think that's probably, I don't know how it got decided who's on executive committee. I mean, I got asked to be on it, and I love being on it because I'm really interested, but I don't know that I have any standing from anybody. So like I said, usually to me, it's usually the chairs of the subcommittees or the working groups or whatever. So just food for thought there. I don't know the history of how the executive committee got created. So
we didn't used to have chairs of the subcommittees, and I think that happened sort of informally.
Okay.
My experience has been that executive committee is comprised of people who have voiced an interest to be there.
Okay.
We did, with our work plans that we developed, we did begin to have conversations about whether there should be a chair of each of the subcommittees, and that's kind of a natural evolution of this work, and so that's why that's been happening.
Okay.
And I think with the exception of access, it is the case that the chairs are on exec, but then there's also additional seats that are available.
Okay.
And there's a vice president seat that is not filled. Lana is the acting secretary, And then I could be wrong, Tina, you might have to, or Mary, you might have, but I believe that there's up to 7 spots total on exec. I think I have to take a peek at the bylaws again. So there's room for Crystal. I think it's kind of like who, it's who kind of came together and said they were willing to take on an extra meeting and do agenda setting and report for their subcommittee.
Okay.
But as we started to evolve and say, well, maybe we need a chair, and Crystal kind of raised her hand. And so I guess my feeling would be, how formal do we want to get with that, organizationally speaking?
Yeah.
Because we can tighten it up if we want to. I certainly want, I have said many times, anybody who even wants to sit in on an exec meeting just to see what happens here, because we do make the agendas, and we do, there is, it is an interesting table of influence to be part of.
Mm-hmm.
And we decide like kind of some of the issues that we're going to try to move forward. So yeah, I guess I don't think that really answers your question, but I think it's a good, it warrants the discussion. So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, well, that's really helpful to me. And I'm kind of the mind, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If it seems to be working fine and people who have interest are here and participating, that's fine. And maybe just Crystal is that she's expressing her interest in being part of it. So I'm not trying to, totally formalize anything. It's just, that's really helpful for me to know just kind of how the understanding's been up to now. So, so that was kind of the main thing. I, for my own interest, I just asked her kind of, what do you like about being on the commission? What would you kind of improve? And she just, she really loves that everyone contributes, and she likes kind of the updates that we get from the ALTs. So we had a little bit of a conversation about just communication with the community and what is the commission allowed to do, and stuff like that. And so I found that interesting, since I'm still kind of understanding that. But yeah, it was really, really fun talking to her. She's got a lot of interest in the artist panel and stuff. So we talked a little bit about that. So anyway, I just kind of took the time to learn a little bit more about what she's been doing and what she's interested in. But so anyway, I will communicate with her that, yep, we can find a place for her, and there is a likely a working artist opening, and we'll just move her into that slot. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I'm really glad that you took the time with that. That's really,
that's great. And I'll just say too, I'm setting up I offered to do an exit interview with Lisa, and we're gonna try to do something next week. We're just coordinating our schedules. So she said she's more than happy to talk about it, and just share some thoughts with me. So I'll report on that next time too.
That is super fabulous. She, I believe, is a 9-year tenured commissioner, which is very rare. So she's got a lot to share. So giving her that time to talk about her experience will be I think that'll be really meaningful. Yeah. Tina, do you want to, you got your hand up?
Oh, sure. Yeah, just real quick. I was just going to let Lucy know that when Crystal reapplies, just make sure she puts down artist on her new application, because she will need to reapply. She doesn't have to go through the interview process and all of that, or be reappointed, like attend those meetings to be reappointed. They'll just approve her to go to be. Yeah, so just tell her to change her application so that when we move her to the right seat, the paperwork follows.
Great. I will do that. Thank you.
Excellent work. Great job. Thank you so much. Okay. I guess next, unless anyone has anything else to add, we'll move on to the ALT updates. And starting with exec, I guess I don't have really much. I think it's something to think about, as we should probably, between now and our next meeting, I would love to propose that we take a look at what we have on our work plan for the year, and what has been done, what hasn't been done, what maybe should still be done that maybe isn't there. Just give it another look. So if it's okay with all of you, I was hoping that we could have that be a part of our agenda next month, to just look at 2021's work plan and give it a good scrub, you know? And then see if like this last quarter, do we have some goals that we really want to advance that we maybe didn't get to already? Does that sound okay? Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Yep,
can
yep.
I'm sorry, I should probably raise my hand, sorry. Just something that I'll just kind of related to that we talked about in policy and advocacy, Mary and Lana and I, that it might, Mary suggested it might be helpful for MAC to think about what our priorities are for the new department. And, you know, we just, and I don't think that that's been done in any kind of, you know, really like deep way. So if we're going to kind of revisit the work plan, maybe there's either not maybe a subsequent next meeting or something where we can really think about, you know, look at the mission of the department and just think about what our priorities are. It's kind of like a little retreat exercise, but we just thought Mary just was encouraging us to really give that some thought, and so we're just more present in the conversations going forward.
I think that would be a wonderful use of our time, for sure. This is the moment where we get to actually have some influence potentially, and I agree with that. So I think a retreat is actually something that is on the exec's work plan to facilitate. So I think that might be a very good meaty discussion.
Yeah.
That would be maybe a separate time together if we could make it happen.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Any other comments, concerns, feedback about exec updates and next steps?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what Lucy just said about her conversation with Crystal. And, you know, and obviously that was a good time to do it when they're transitioning, and, you know, but do we need to just kind of do some kind of survey? You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, right now, but maybe in the beginning of the year of all the commissioners, is kind of getting some kind of feedback on, you know, how they're feeling, and just kind of some kind of check in, because I thought it was very good in terms of what we heard from Lucy and Crystal. So just a thought.
I think maybe, I mean, that might even be something that we could do also as part of our last quarter work plan, is just have, you know, come up with, it doesn't have to be exhaustive. It can be kind of simple, but maybe we do execute a survey. It's not hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to get people to do them, but I think that probably wouldn't be the case with this group if we just said we want, you know, because one of the things that we could also leverage through the survey is getting some information to help build the retreat agenda about, you know, like we can kind of do a couple of things with the survey, and also what's the work plan for 2022 for the commission? That's a big question. So, and having not even really had a chance to come up for air and like ask it, this might be the moment to say, because a lot of times, or I guess maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mandy, and maybe you don't remember either, but I feel like we have successfully completed our work plans like December, January, or have tried like for the year, even if there's been uncertainty, of course, with the pandemic and everything, but we've tried to kind of make that the cadence. Obviously, the new year brings the new work plan. So this might be something that we can use for, you know, several things. Checking the temperature on what people are interested in, how engaged they've felt, like what has been positive for them, where they see opportunity. What are some of the priorities that they feel for the new department? I mean, just take a pass at it to let people just give a quick, you know, free write their thoughts about it. And what, you know, types of goals for 2022, you know, because I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but these are some questions that I think we could get a lot of mileage out of.
Yeah.
So that's a great suggestion. So for an action step for that, would you like me to draft some survey questions for you to provide some, or am I moving too quickly? I might be. But I could draft some survey questions that we could talk about at our next meeting as well. Just quickly kind of take a look at it and maybe try to get that to happen before like November or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you're willing, that's great.
Yeah, and if you need some help, you know, just let me know.
Yeah.
I will. probably will send it to everyone and say, give me your, I'll do what I usually do, give me your feedback by this time, and then, all right, cool, yay, great, that'll be great. Thank you so much for that suggestion, it's really smart. Anything else for exec? All right, moving on to policy updates. Lucy, I imagine you're going to be in that seat.
Yeah, we, again, Lana and I met with Mary, and Gulgoon, as you know, she ended up having car trouble. So Lana had a one-on-one with Danielle and a one-on-one with Gulgoon separately. So I think she can probably give the best review there. But the meeting that I was in on with Mary, we did talk a lot about the new department and just the situation with the budget right now. Mary was still trying to kind of figure out what was being proposed in the mayor's budget and how that interacts with the American Rescue Act money. There's some confusion about whether it's all added staff and money or it's already including a couple of program managers. So she was going to just kind of really take a close look at that and hash it out for us and let us know what that meant. We did talk a little bit about the role of the art stakeholders group, and I think Lana mentioned this at our last meeting, but we feel like they could be a real resource in gaining some support for during the budget negotiation stuff. And I think Lana said in her email that she sent you, Joan, that Gulgoon is planning to send an email to all of them just to kind of update them on where we are with the new department and the budget. So they'd kind of be aware of it, but I don't know to what extent Gulgoon and her staff are going to ask them for, I don't know, advocacy or, to help make the case for budget. So Gulgoon's raising her hand, so maybe she can help us there understand. So we talked a lot about that. We also talked about maybe some potential roles going forward for MAC in the budget process. We could maybe do our own, we talked about, sending another letter, but is another letter just another letter? And if we could get some input from the art stakeholder group, maybe we could funnel some of that in a letter to the city council. So we could be maybe a gathering, kind of eyes and ears on the ground for that. We definitely need to continue to track it, and hopefully we can get regular updates from Gulgoon and Danielle. And then, of course, to meet with the Kono, Jenkins, and Fletcher, the biggest players in the new department. So there's kind of a to-do list for us as over the next few months. But I'm curious to hear what Gulgoon can add, just because she has had a separate conversation with Lana and stuff. So.
Thanks, Lucy. Great update. Yeah, Gulgoon, go ahead. You might be muted. I'm not sure.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. There's funky connection here. But in terms of the budget, the mayor has recommended $300,000 for the new department, and that is for 2 staff members. And that's it for the new department. The American Rescue Plan dollars, my program, which is separate from the new department, has been allocated $500,000 for very specific spending, and that has to be spent before the end of the year. So I don't think we should confuse those things, but there's another round of American Rescue Plan dollars yet to be allocated, and how that gets allocated is yet to be decided. I don't know. On the staff end, we haven't been informed. So that's just the budget status. For the stakeholder group, yes, I owe an email to the stakeholder group. I was simply going to send an email to update them on the mayor's budget and invite them to connect to the link on the presentation that I made to the council on how to finance the new department, since financing was one of the main questions at our meeting. I unfortunately have no staff any longer, so I'm unable to take on, I don't have enough capacity to take on another meeting. So I think Alana was thinking of potentially that Matt could host that conversation. Regardless, Danielle and myself cannot advocate in any way, shape, or form against the mayor's budget. That's the rule that we need to follow. We can provide you with information should you wish to do that, but we cannot do any type of advocacy. And I've been told absolutely not. So that's the status. And I hope to be sending that email out next week. We're extraordinarily busy with all the Creative Response Fund projects right now. But next week I will have some time carved out to craft an email, and I'll make sure that the Arts Commission members are included, especially those who attended the meeting last time. So you all should be on that, but just so that you are aware. And really, it's simply an informational email to bring people up to speed. I think that, does that answer all of your questions?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you, Gogun. Appreciate that. So, okay, help me because I'm new. How did you lose your staff? Were they temporary?
So my staff have been grant funded since 2016, and
Okay.
last year the whole plan we had $1 million from the Kresge Foundation for a specific program, and those staff were hired to support that program. And last year we along with a number of other grant funded staff, so there's a number of grant funded staff inside the coordinator office, the city coordinator recommended that 7 staff that were grant funded be transitioned to the general fund, and 5 were recommended by the mayor, but 2 were not, and the 2 that were not were the 2 arts and culture staff. So the reason we kept them this year was because I went back to the Kresge Foundation and said, could you please extend our grant, because it was supposed to have been over in 2020. We had some money left over, and we asked if we could extend it into this year. So it was extended, but until October. And then because council members heard about what had happened, they then created the resolution, which then enabled a discussion at council to then add some city dollars to that staff funding, with the expectation that this year they would be funded somehow. Now, obviously, I think then the mayor's recommendation does indeed fund those 2 staff. However, I lost my staff, one of my staff in January, Amelia, who died suddenly. And then Tico said that she couldn't maintain her position at the city without security that it would be there in 2022. And so she was offered a position and took a more permanent and secure position. So I didn't, when you're grant funded, you're precarious. And that is the nature of grant funds. We don't recommend that city staff be grant funded, because then it makes everything they do precarious. So that's the situation, unfortunately, that we were left with. So now those 2 staff are gone. I'm unable to hire new people because I literally don't have the budget to, the general fund dollars to do that. And no one is going to take on a position for a few months.
Great. Thank you so much. That's so helpful to me. Sorry if that was a repeat for everybody, but thank you, Gogun. That's very helpful.
Yeah, I think the lesson learned there is what we've been trying to talk about in terms of stabilizing the work. And I think that both Mary, I don't want to speak for Mary, but for me, for sure, stabilization means consistent staff so that we can actually meet the needs of the community and the work that needs to get done.
Thank you. Mary, I see you have your hand up.
I just wanted to give you some information about the American Rescue Act money. Right now, It's the next phase of American Rescue money is open to public comment, and so you can go on the city's website and comment about how you'd like the city to spend the next round of money.
That's fantastic, Mary. One of the things I did in my presentation to council on how to finance the department was I did recommend that American Rescue Act money be used to cushion the department until more permanent resources could be advocated for. And there's a number of ways, we gave a whole sort of analysis of what could happen. There's a lot of coulds in there. So American Rescue Act money is just there as a sort of a bridge.
Tina, would it be possible as an action step to include that public comment link in when we get our agenda done and we're ready to send it out to the full commission, to encourage people to check that out and comment if they feel comfortable, but if nothing else, read what other people are saying? I think that's important. I'll draft that. Maybe if Mary, if you can send me the link, or I'll Google for it. Try to look for it.
It's on Facebook. It's on the city's Facebook site.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, any other policy updates? Lots of good work happening. Goodness.
Nope, that's it.
May I
Thank you.
additional comment?
Sure.
And that is that just based on what you guys were talking about earlier related to how does the Arts Commission, what are the priorities of the Arts Commission with the new department? I recommend that you look at the proposals set out for the work of the new department. That's also in the ordinance, of course, but also in the presentations, and start from there so that you can all kind of be in the same place. That's the playing field, I guess, that's my recommendation, is look what the new department is proposing to do and proposing to build, and where the Arts Commission either supports or doesn't support or wants to add. That's where I would start with. Because then
that's what we were talking. Yeah, that's what we were talking about too. Not coming up with new stuff, but just looking at how the department's framed and then where, what we think the priorities are. So, yep, we're on the same page there.
Thank you. Because whoever's going to implement the work will be going by those plans, including the policies in the comp plan.
Right.
And they'll come from that.
Yep. We agree. Yep. Great.
Thank you both. Any other policy updates? Okay, next up is access updates for September. I'm picking on either of you.
I missed I have all the emails, but I did miss the call, so I'll let Mandy start.
I was just going to see who could get their mute button unmuted first. Well, I guess the big thing right now is that we have been drafting a survey that's going to go out to the artists that have worked with the city. We have the survey complete, but Jeff just commented on it actually a few minutes ago, I think, that we're wondering if we should bring that survey to you guys to have another set of eyes on it before we send it out. It's super simple, 5 questions maybe. And it kind of just goes through like what we ask them, what their experience was like working with the city, what they did for the city, what they would like to see for future improvements of it, and then ask them if they'd be willing to serve on a panel to discuss it. So it's kind of that basic.
That's great. I guess my only comment would be if you feel like it would be helpful to have any of us look at it, I'm super happy to. If you feel confident with what you have, I also I'm happy for you just to continue to lead. So whatever.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure, because we're sending it to a handful of artists, and Lisa's on the panel too. So I think if we were doing anything wrong, she's seasoned enough to be like, that we can't do that. So I'm pretty confident in what we've come up with so far. So
the only other thing that came up was that we were going to potentially check with Mary on maybe expanding the list of people to send it to. So I think that came up to today.
Yeah. That's right. Not my thing.
So I'm happy to send out a link to all of the artists that I've had under contract
Perfect.
in the last 5 years.
Wow.
That's
That'd-
beautiful.
So I'm happy to do that. So my only concern is I feel like there needs to be a little framing at the beginning of the survey, because I think a lot of things that artists would like to change are things that none of us have any control over, that are bigger bureaucratic city things that the Arts Commission could certainly ask for change in those things, but some of them are related to like federal and state laws and things like that. And so I just want to, I think there's got to be a little context setting so that you don't feel like it's really frustrating to be asked what you think and then to tell people what you think and then see no change. You know what I mean? And so I'm willing, anything that you find out in the survey that I have the power to change, that seems reasonable to change, I'm willing to work with you on that, but I'm not like the head of procurement, right?
So in our description in the beginning, it does say that this input and feedback will gauge interest in and inform the direction of a deeper conversation to be held in November. So
Okay.
so the framework is that this is going to help spark this conversation that we're going to have in November. It's led by the Access and Engagement Committee of the Minneapolis Arts Commission, who is a group of volunteers with the mission to strengthen the arts and enrich culture life in Minneapolis. So it's not anything saying that, we work for the city and we're going to be able to help. I think I said
Right.
it says this valuable information will help to determine how to best increase access to opportunities for artists at all stages of their career, which we might want to consider changing. I don't know if that's okay to say that.
I think that might be okay to say. Maybe my comment is more related to the conversation that you hold and that how you set the tone with the conversation.
That's
When you
right.
ask people for input, it's always good to tell them what you have power over and what you don't. You know what I mean? So that's my only concern is that, especially if the conversation just went down a path of a whole bunch of people rallying around something we have no power over, and then that would just drive them crazy.
Yeah, like the invoice system, that's super easy invoice system.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever
Oh,
get paid.
apparently the invoicing system is going through a major overhaul right now.
That is
So
that's like a scavenger hunt for your money. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've gotten a taste of that.
yeah. So, again, there's not a lot we can promise. Like,
Right. Yep. I feel like I think we framed it in the sense that, we're not promising anything, but we want it to help gauge our conversation that we want to have in November. So I think we're pretty safe on that, but I do agree, and we'll bring that back to the committee on that.
I think,
Right.
and it
So
would be nice.
I'm happy to forward it to all of those folks and copy you. I would
Okay.
have to ask everyone if I have permission to share their personal data, meaning their email address with you. And it would just probably be easier for me to just forward it to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. If
And
you're willing
I'd
to
be
do
happy to do
this. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, Mary. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that I think it is possible, depending on the timing that we get the feedback back from artists, that could also be an incredibly helpful tool to drive our 2022 work plan too, and also the policy work that may be happening within the public art work that, kind of the roadmap. So this is great because I think we can get a lot of mileage out of this, not just for some of the focus that the Access team has, but also some of the policy work that's going to be happening. So that's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. Any other Access updates? That's really great. I'm so glad that's happening, by the way.
No guest speaker for this month. So just want to let you know for that.
That's really helpful. Yeah. Then I won't be bothering you and saying, I forgot to ask that. Okay. All right. Anything else for Access?
Nope, I think that's it. But then potentially if we have I think we were talking about having the panel in November virtually. Or should we still plan on that? Or do we want to try to plan on hosting it? Because if we have it in that fancy room, that Mary held the planning meeting that they had with the fancy cameras that zoom in on people when they talk. We could do a hybrid maybe, or plan on a hybrid depending on, if we open or if we don't open. I don't know if that's something that we should do, or should we just plan for a Teams panel?
I think you should plan for all three.
Okay. Awesome.
Or, no, I think you should, I don't, actually just two, just the hybrid and the virtual only. I think you should plan for both.
Okay, that sounds fair. So we can work with Tina still to like book the room and just in case we can use it.
There's also a larger conference room that has the same technology, Mandy, so I think you need to project how many people you think you're going to have.
Yeah, that's a good, I mean, it's going to be open to the public. But I don't, yeah, that's a good question. I guess if we can get the survey sent out, we can gauge that maybe.
Yeah, for real. I'm glad that's an option though, and I'm happy to hear that the conversation is still moving it forward, even though we're like uncertainty. You're still going to get it done. That's really exciting. Thank you. Anything else for access? Feedback, comments, concerns? Okay, moving on to public art. I have been very out of the loop, admittedly. I apologize. So I am going to punt this over to Mary. If you don't mind, Mary, just giving us a quick update. I know there's a lot of activity happening, and also too, Mary, you and I will need to connect on what, are we going to be putting on the agenda, the discussion, and what, if anything, is going to be on consent for September. So
I don't think we need to put anything on the agenda. The panel reviewed the proposals for sites, and the panel they received 17 really good proposals. So the panel, but the panel deferred the decision till next month because they felt like they needed to have a really thorough conversation, and so they won't make site recommendations till October. So Joan, you still have time to actually participate in that process.
I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm sorry if it delays things, but I'm like, yes, all right. Put me back in, coach, because I couldn't make it yesterday.
You missed the presentations were absolutely wonderful, but the written documentation is really good too. So, yeah, so that will be in October. So the panel isn't forwarding anything to the commission this month.
Okay, great. And I'll be all over the documentation, so hopefully I can have some meaningful contributions by the time we meet. Yay, thank you. Anything else for public art?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, well, we're planning the dedication of the 40th Street Pedestrian Bridge, which after 5 years of work by St. Jones has been completed, and we're tentatively planning on having it on Saturday, October 9th. We'll probably finalize that tomorrow or Monday.
Let's make sure that that's in our agenda to mention with our public art updates, just because I think for all the reasons, Setu being a legacy artist in the city, this project having such a long tenure and being, just it's been a long road, that we would try to have as much participation in supporting the celebration as we can.
And we probably will want to have an arts commissioner speak at the event, and so we can, think about that behind the scenes, whether we want to select somebody who's from the adjacent community or from leadership or whatever, or whoever's just available. But
or who's in that ward, or who has a relationship with safety.
Or a panel member who approved the design, that kind of thing.
Thank you for thinking of that. Those are, they seem like small opportunities, but they're actually pretty big opportunities for us to be more community facing. So that is fabulous, and I really appreciate it. And let's make sure that we track that and make it happen. So thanks. Okay. All right. Anything else? We've got new business, and then we can adjourn. I have one item. I am now at jonibaloney@gmail.com. So I am no longer at Hennepin Theater Trust, and I will not give you all the gritty details, but so you can reach me at my Gmail. And of course I'm available there, and I check that every day.
Can you tell me what that is again? I don't know Joni Baloney.
Also, it's weird. It's JONI, B as in boy, ALONIE,
Okay.
gmail.com.
Okay. Thank you.
Very professional.
Love it.
I know, it's kind of funny. Some of the people that I've been like having conversations with, and I'm kind of saying like, I don't feel like making a whole new Gmail address, and maybe I could with my whole name again, but it's like, whatever, I'm just deal with it.
I think it's fun because, I have kind of a weird one too. And so whenever people say it back to me, it just makes me laugh because they read it like, what is, that's not your name. So I bet it's fun hearing people say, is that jonibaloney@gmail.com? I think that'd be fun.
My favorite comment so far was one of the youth that I'm coaching said, "Oh, you must have been on Gmail like when it first started. You don't even have any numbers in there." And I was like, as a matter of fact, I was. So you're right. Anyway, okay. Does anybody have anything else that they want to bring forward? Any new business? Any comments, feedback? No? Okay. So I think our next meeting is going to be a little bit more dense, and it would be nice to also think about, I think maybe another thing for me to kind of do as an action step is to think of what amount of time would we want to dedicate to a retreat. I think a lot of that depends on what we're trying to accomplish. Is that a retreat for the full commission? Is that a retreat for the chairs of the committee? What does that look like? So I might just send some of you some of those questions and work on that via email a little bit, just to start to kind of wrap our heads around what we're building for that. Does that sound okay too?
Yep.
Yeah.
I do have one more thing that Lana mentioned, and maybe we can just remind everybody next week, but I think she only heard from me in terms of criteria for when we would take things off of consent.
Yeah.
And have them be a discussion item. So we could either just put that out, remind everybody in the email. I think she had a question for you, Joan, of should we extend that, the quote unquote deadline, or just go with what we have or whatever. So that's just something to think about. So just a reminder maybe to people.
I honestly feel like I have had a tremendous amount of conversations about this. So I am in the hot seat here and owing you, I think, a lot of feedback based on a lot of the conversations that I've had with, the kind of the situations that we've navigated with the consent agenda recently. So
great.
Okay. I got my little yellow marks on my scroll here about what I need to follow up with, and that is one of them. So
all right,
look at that. But I guess I think you can always, circle back and tell people like, hey, we'd really love to hear from you. Please get this to me by the end of the day tomorrow. And if they can, they can. If they can't, they can't. But just like everybody's so busy, I think that like
totally
stuff oftentimes can just kind of fall off and you don't think of it. But
absolutely.
So maybe this is like, because I kind of also want to think about like, how do we utilize our one email we get that we can't reply all, but where we like send the agenda and just have it maybe take a little bit more of a newsletter shape. Not that it's like super dense, but that like, we need this, we need this, we need this, don't reply all, but here's all your kind of like, here's all of the things that we sort of want you to consider. So maybe even that email, more so than just the agenda that is going to be the basis of our meeting, but like, and also this, and this. So I might be able to take a little bit more time with that. And I'll have that again to you guys by Monday, hopefully Monday by the end of the day, and then give you a couple of days to give me any feedback, if that sounds okay. But I think I might take a stab at like the email being a little bit more informative, is I guess what I'm saying. Mandy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is a working document in Teams like an Excel spreadsheet with the item you need and then all of our names so we can write in our stuff? Is that quorum? Or like, if you just give us a link in that document that links, it has
assignments, check the box when you've done it.
Something process. Can you tell I'm a process manager? Something like process flow driven that like, because I get so many emails that I know I answered some from the ALT and the Poet Laureate, but I didn't answer that one. Like, so if we had like, because we can use our Teams I know most of us can get into it. I think Lisa can't, but she's.
That's what, right? We don't have to try to make her, but yeah, that's
I don't
okay. I'd be down with trying it. You know, we can try whatever. Like maybe we do both things. We're like, hey, here's a bulleted list of the things we wish for you to spend some time on before we meet. And here's a link to a spreadsheet where you can just let us know that you've completed the items.
Right. And leave feedback, because I think a good centralized location for feedback is good, because then you guys don't have to look through all of your emails to get the 7 replies. Like all the 7 replies would be in the document.
Right. That makes sense.
I
Awesome.
know.
Good. No, good. It's good. It's project management. I think a lot of this stuff kind of falls into that, but we don't really treat it like that so formally because, you know, we're sort of coming at it from different places, but that's good. A good suggestion. All right. I think that's everything. I won't read off my action steps here, but hopefully you kind of feel confident in the ones that you have. And so just be looking for that email from me on Monday. And then if you can reply by like Wednesday, then I can send it to Tina by Thursday, and then she has time to post it on Friday is how it goes. We just try to give her a little bit of breathing room in case she's busy. Does that sound good, Tina?
Yes, and yeah, the meeting's not till, we have an extra week, so we don't need it by this Friday. I think the meeting's on the 22nd.
That's right, because of the Jewish holidays, my bad.
Right, yeah, so we actually have some time, so if you want to wait till next week, that's fine.
Well, I wonder if, let's take advantage of that. Let's get our agenda out when we normally would with all of our asks, and then let's emphasize that you have an extra week to do some of the due diligence we're asking you to do.
Oh, perfect. Sounds good.
Right? Yay. No excuses. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Awesome, guys. Well, it's been delightful to see you. If there's nothing else, I will say have a nice evening, and thank you so much for your time and your passion and your dedication. It's really wonderful to work with you.
Great to see you all. Thanks.
Okay.
You too. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.